Hey new parents, I'm Brian and welcome back to the Dad Life. This bottle washer has been a complete game changer for us for an entire year now, and I wanted to just let you know how it's been going after over 800 full cycles. I'll let you know how much time this has saved us, the optimal way to fit as many bottles as possible into a single load, what kind of water you should really be using, and answer some of the other most common questions that I've gotten about this washer. So how has it been for us? Well, it has saved us a tremendous amount of time over the past year to do other things that just need to be taken care of. I was looking back at my purchase history and it looks like I've purchased about 7 of these detergent pack boxes. Each detergent box comes with about 120 tablets, so we've run this machine about 850 cycles, which is a little bit more than 2 times a day, which makes sense. You know, it's been a workhorse in our home and it's still going strong. I've replaced the air filter underneath the unit 1 time, and I've run a descaling run twice over the past year, and it's still cleaning and sterilizing all of our parts very well every single day. In terms of having a product that I can just rely on, that doesn't have a subscription to use the product and works consistently, this is probably the best example of this in our house right now. You could maybe make the case that the detergent tablets are a subscription, but it's not like a paid subscription to make the product actually work. If I think about the amount of time it takes me to wash 8 bottles, all of the parts by hand, and then sterilizing them and drying them all on my own without this machine, it would take me about 30 minutes each time. That comes out to about 420 hours if I did this 850 times last year. Instead, it takes me about 2 minutes to load and unload this unit every single time for 8 bottles, so this has saved me about 392 hours last year, and I'd say that this is well worth the investment. Just a quick note that this video is not sponsored by Momcozy, and everything I share is based on my own experience with this product over the last year, and I mean literally every single day. If you're in the process of deciding whether or not to get this one or one of the many options out there, I haven't tested every single bottle washer out there, but I know that for the ones that I have tested, which are the Groenzy, the Baby Brezza, and the Boo Boo Pod, all I can say is that I've had the best user experience with this one overall, and it's been really reliable for me, where I'm coming up on 900 cycles now. So the one thing I wanted to share was how do I maximize the load of this washer? Over the past year, one of the things that I've learned is to try not to overload the washer, because if water can't get into all of the parts because it's too crammed, then usually I have 1 or 2 bottles that aren't fully cleaned. It's the same principle as using your dishwasher at home. That being said, there are times where I don't have time to run multiple cycles, and I try to fit up to 8 bottles into the washer. So I'm going to show you how I fit 4 of the tall, thinner Dr. Brown bottles and also 4 of the shorter Dr. Brown thin bottles and all of their associated parts into this unit and have it wash everything fully. I'm going to use dirty bottles this time, since in a previous video, one of the comments I got was that I was filming everything with clean bottles and they wanted to see used bottles. So here you go. The first thing I do is put the tall bottles into the 4 main bottle sections, and then I put the collars around the corner stems. And you can fit up to 2 collars on one stem, and then I put a shorter bottle on top of those collars on the stem. And you'll notice that when this all stacks up on the stem, the top of the shorter bottles is now at the same height as the tall bottles, which means the top rack will still fit on top. Then I place 2 of the green stems in between the 2 larger bottles, and they fit into that empty space in there. Then I can put all of the other small parts, including the lid, the nipple, and the stem cap, onto the top rack. Now this part takes a little bit of creativity to figure out because it's a little bit hard to fit everything on top just right. And if you really are having a little bit of trouble with this, you may need to wash a couple of the lids by hand, which will just take you about a minute. Quick note, I'm going to show you how it looks like in just one of the corners of the washer, and you can just replicate this setup around the washer on all of the other corners. I just can't do it right now because some of the bottles are at daycare right now, but you get the point. Do you need to pre-wash everything? I've seen a lot of people in the comments mention that they have to pre-wash their bottles before they put it into the washer, and I honestly have never done that at all. The most I've done is just dumped out any leftover milk before I put it into the washer, and they've pretty much always come out clean after a cycle. Now, one of the most common questions I've also received is, what kind of water should I use? I know that some brands specifically mention using distilled water, but that's a hassle, right? To either make or even buy on your own. Long story short, I don't think you need distilled water, and you can just use tap water. Think of it this way. If you wash your bottles by hand in the sink or in a dishwasher, you're not using distilled water for that, and I'd be very surprised if you were. And we're okay with washing things that way for everything else in our lives. And so using tap water by itself is okay. I could see a follow-up question being, well, distilled water is sterile and tap water isn't, and that's true. And I'll say that the good thing about this product is that it also has a sterilizing function. So if you wash, dry, and sterilize the bottles, then anything that's left over from the tap water that needs to be burned away or anything like that will get taken care of during the sterilization cycle anyway. And I think the most likely reason why brands recommend using distilled water or even bring it up is to avoid any limescale buildup that you might get from tap water. And if you live in an area with hard water, you might be more susceptible to this. Again, limescale isn't dangerous. These are just minerals in the water, including calcium and magnesium, which leave a white residue when it dries up. Now, I can't guarantee that this is the real reason for this, but this is the best reason that I can come up with after thinking about this for a while. Another question I get is, why is there milky residue on my bottles and parts? Now, once in a while, after a cycle, I sometimes do find that my bottles still have this like milky film on the bottles and the nipple parts, and it usually confuses me why this is happening. I've tried a couple of different things, and the only thing that I've been able to narrow this down to for myself is that I may have forgotten to put a detergent tablet into the cycle, and I've definitely forgotten it more than once. That might be one common reason why this happens, so just in case it happens to you, try running it one more time with the detergent tablet and see if it fixes the issue. Another good question is, do I have to use Momcozy detergent tablets? Not anymore. One of the updates over the last 6 months is that there are generic detergent tablets available on Amazon that you can get, which are a little bit more affordable. One option is the Talovi, which is $16 for 160 tablets, which comes out to about 10 cents a tablet, versus the Momcozy branded tablets, which are $20 for 120 tablets, which comes out to about 17 cents a tablet. This is the only recurring cost that you have to take into account for this product, and you can save a few dollars a month if you'd like. How do I clean my washer? Well, like I mentioned before, using tap water is fine, and it hasn't affected my washer that much. But it does mean that you might see some limescale buildup over time, and I've just seen a small bit of it on mine. To address this issue, I had a video before around 2 easy maintenance tips for the washer, and in that video I shared about using a vinegar solution you could make to wash everything out. A cool update is that now, instead of creating your own custom vinegar solution, you can use one of these new descaling tablets, which is basically a citric acid in a dried form, and you can pop that into an empty load and then run a rapid cycle for a full cleaning. This makes things a lot easier, and I would do this maybe just once a month if you're in an area where you have hard water, or whenever you start to see white residue start to build up on your unit. Okay, short and sweet. Hopefully this helps you out if you're either thinking about getting one of these, or if you already have one and you're wondering how reliable it is. I'll add links below for the things that I showed today, and you might get a discount depending on when you see this video. I'd highly recommend this product for any new parents because it's seriously a game changer. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today, and I'd love to hear your comments below if you have any other tips or tricks for using this product. And I know that most of you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, and I'd love for you to join the Dad Life crew, so go ahead and like and subscribe before you leave, and I'll see you next time on the Dad Life.